Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, I thought that it might be a good idea to talk a little bit about what we plan to do with Equestria Primates and also the Banana Republic stuff in general. We've talked a little bit about the characters of Banana Republic and what we plan to do with that, and I gave kind of a sort of odd update, a broad update on things previously. But we've had some developments and I've poked around a little bit, and so yeah, now would be a good time to talk about it. Anyway, though, as many of you who follow these videos are aware, Equestria Primates is on indefinite hiatus, which is basically like canceled. Like I said, approach it emotionally as though it's been canceled, because that's probably the most accurate approach. Basically, Petarup got burned out just drawing pictures, so many pictures. If you look at the promo for Equestria Primates, it's at a very high level of quality, and he tried to keep at it at that level of quality. And we've got a bit more done, but he just got tired of, he just got burnt out. He couldn't keep at it while still doing other stuff on the side, while still doing other things to make ends meet. So that's on indefinite hiatus. But I said that I was going to think about ways that I could continue to maybe have it be out there, and I have done so. One of the things that I suggested is, as I get better at art, I can actually just do it with the Mentally Advanced series. When we reach that point of the continuity in the Mentally Advanced series, we will just have Equestria Primates. Like, instead of going to the human world, they will go to monkey world, and I'll just handle it that way. But that would be quite a fair way off, because with one episode per month, it would be about, like, 4 years, I guess, would be when you would see that. Assuming that we go on for like 4 years drawing stuff. You know, because it's like there's like 24 episodes in every season about, and so like one episode a month, and it would be about 4 years. So that's quite a stretch away. I don't think that like I said, that's like way in the distant future, so it's not a real hopeful prospect. However, another thing that I talked about possibly doing was maybe like Kickstarter stuff. And so I might look into setting up a team, and then maybe getting Equestria Primates out there using a team, and then that way we can produce the whole thing. The trouble is, though, is that if I'm going to get together a team, I want to actually get together a team of people who can devote some time and get it done within, you know, the scope of 4 years, before 4 years is up, or otherwise it doesn't really matter. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to actually do a Kickstarter, and we'd have to figure out how much money we need for a budget, and so on and so forth. So I've done actually a little bit of just sort of tentative feeling out and talking to people about how much that they think that it would cost to actually do an episode. I haven't reached out to a really large number of people yet, but I have spoken to a guy who's interested in doing some aspects of the art. We just recently agreed to do like a trial video, so I sent him some stuff, some lines and some videos, and what I'm actually going to have him do, if he's cool with this, is a kind of a parody video on a lot of the online activism, the internet activism that I've been seeing today. I want to do a video called Dread Activist Lord Dr. Sarkatho. And what it is it's just this kind of like crazy, I can't remember what kind of baboon. It's like these really freaky looking baboons. It looks like their necks are cut open, like they just look like really scary. And I was gonna have him like all dressed in black, and he's like the Dread Activist, or rather she, because I voiced the character, so it's a female. So she's all dressed in black, and she looks like she got her throat cut, and they're just scary looking baboons, whatever these baboons are. And anyway, though, so she's gonna have all these bizarre conspiracy theories, and like one of the things that I most commonly see with online activism, whether you're on Poll or Tumblr or just, you know, YouTube, whatever, the thing that you most commonly see usually are people abusing statistics. Like, they'll take statistical data and they'll kind of interpret it to exactly line up with what they want to believe, and then they ask no further questions, and any other interpretation of these statistics is unholy. It's just wrong. So the Dread Activist Sarkatho, Dr. Sarkatho, shall be an insane activist who just abuses statistics and does stuff like that. So that might come up sometime in the future, like I said, just depending on how things go. This was a trial thing, so it may not go up, or it may not, like I'll see how it turns out, but I've got audio for it, and if you guys are in the stream, actually, it'll probably be too late. By the time this video goes up, I'll show it in the stream, but maybe I'll show it again some other time. Just if we don't get it online, then I might be prompted to bring up the audio again, and you guys can hear my ridiculous ranting on my statistical theories and stuff like that. But the Dread Activist Sarkatho is one thing that's coming up. But yeah, that'll be just kind of feeling out how long it takes and how much effort it takes to do this sort of stop frame stuff that PetterUp does, or that PetterUp has done. And once we get a good feel about rates and exactly how long it'll take people to get stuff done, I can get a feel for how much content we can actually put out there, and I can put together a tentative budget. And of course, we're going to run over budget, whatever I put down for a budget. I'll try to be realistic and grounded and ask for enough to get by. But what I'm going to do for the Kickstarter, though, once I get a few more people, once I start talking to a few more people and I figure out how much exactly they'd want. One guy, for example, told me $20 per hour would be good for him, and that's pretty reasonable, knowing what I do about finances and everything like that. You know, making a living. $20 per hour is you know, it's pretty reasonable pay. The guy asking for it too, this was a guy who does a lot of background art, and he is pretty good from what I saw. So so yeah, that seemed reasonable to me. So what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll lay out a budget, and I will show it to you guys when I do the Kickstarter, and I'll say, this is the budget plan. Like, this is what we're actually going to do. This is where we plan to have the money go, and this is how long we expect to be working on the project. And throughout the Kickstarter, I'll try and update it and be really transparent about the whole thing. Because one of the troubles with Kickstarter is that you find that it tends to be like it's prone to fraud a little bit. I mean, not exactly fraud, but you see like people will try to promote some project, and then at the end of the project, everyone just kind of standing around, and they're like, where'd all the money go? Like, we gave you close to $1 million. How do we get this? Speaking of online activists, you see that as well. It's like Anita Sarkeesian was famous for her whole thing is just her Kickstarter. It was like she got $150,000, and then people were like, where did the money go? But you also saw this with Bee and Puppycat. Bee and Puppycat, if you guys are familiar with that. This one is actually, I think, more about the Bee and Puppycat thing than I do about the Anita Sarkeesian thing. We're not going to use the money for any kind of political ends. But Bee and Puppycat asked for like $800,000 or something like that, and they produce with that. They're producing what seems like very little content. And I'm not sure if Bee and Puppycat would be a good mark to judge how much we would need. I don't have the background that Bee and Puppycat did to pull in $800,000. I am hoping for enough to pay a small squad, enough to get a like an hour and a half long video done. But that $800,000 amount that Bee and Puppycat asked for, that was when, like I said, the fans were a little bit strange on that one, because you got back and the fans were like, so we sent you $800,000, where did the money go? And some people thought it was maybe for merchandising or something else. They really weren't sure. And I'm not really sure either, because somebody else brought up that like a project that cost about $200,000 was producing about double the content. So yes, I'm not really sure. This is something that I haven't done before. So like I say, right now I'm just kind of feeling out exactly what the budget would be. But up front though, when I post this thing, or if I post this thing, depending on how discussions go, we will tell you exactly where we plan to spend the money. You guys are investors. We will respect you as such. There's no reason to hide how we plan to use the budget. So you guys will know exactly what you're investing in. We will probably have to keep a certain amount. We'll keep some for taxes and a fee to pay like an accountant, because if it winds up being a lot of money that we need, like if it winds up being very expensive, because an hour and a half, that's like, if it wound up being something like over $100,000, I wouldn't want to be screwing around with that amount of money and then do the taxes wrong or something like that, and then get to the end of it and find that I spent all the money and the IRS is like, so where's $50,000 because we need that money. That would be terrible. I'd just go to prison for that sort of thing. So we'll still have to like hire an accountant, set money aside for over budget stuff. Another thing I was thinking about, we could potentially set money aside for a lawyer, but what I think that we would rather do is, because it's a parody of My Little Pony, if I go with the Kickstarter thing, where if I bring in enough money to actually pay a group to do a video, what I'll do is I'll actually change the names of the characters. And I was talking about this in stream, is instead of naming them, like Twilight Sparkle, Rainbow Dash, and whatever, and having the scenes all set in where is visibly Ponyville, I would have it be in places that kind of resemble Ponyville, but are not actually their locations. Like, they've got their play sets and whatnot. So I won't actually have them be at Sugar Cube Corner or Canterlot Castle or anything like that. it'll be places that are kind of similar, but clearly, you know, not the same thing. Much more distinct. The characters, I'll change them a little bit. Their appearances will change. We'll get some concept art, and we'll put that up. That'll be another thing, is we'll get some concept art when we're doing the pitch, and I'll show you guys, here's what the character's gonna look like. I was thinking of just changing the characters' names to stuff like Blue Fast, Purple Smart, Squiggle Tail, Apple Horse. Apple Horse is kind of hard to say, to be honest, but Apple Horse and Yellow Quiet and all that, and just using those internet names that you see for the characters a lot. And then that way we're not using the trademarks, we're not using the likeness of the characters. The art style will already be different. We'll kind of follow similar to PetterUp style, just depending on what we can produce. I could talk to PetterUp about what he can do on the project, but what PetterUp and I have decided to do now is we are going to be producing Banana Republic shorts, where he'll work on like a minute of video, and he's going to focus on stuff that he hasn't done in the past, like flash animation, things like that, because he needs to practice those kind of things, and you know, this is a good way to do it. So that's what we're going to do, is he's going to be working on that stuff, and we'll get that out a little bit more frequently. But there's a couple different artist roles, and so there's some that might be less work intensive, like PetterUp could potentially be, he could do some directing maybe. I guess I'll talk to him about it and figure out what exactly he wants to do with it after I figure out what exactly we would need to do. Once I nail it down a little bit better. So yes, that's the plan as far as the Equestria Primate stuff is going. That's kind of where I'm at with that right now. It's what I think that I will do. If any of you guys have any thoughts on this sort of thing, we actually got a lot of people who offered to help us out with art when we first had our stuff get taken down by Content ID. I couldn't bring myself to ask anybody for help without any sort of payment, though. It didn't seem right. And the trouble with that too is that if I can't pay people, realistically, I can't keep doing videos and then just not pay people stuff. Especially not if I'm bringing in money. I mean, it's one of those things, like if I'm bringing in enough money that I could pay other people, then great. But if I can't bring in enough money to pay people, then there's really no reason why I should just be pocketing what little is produced. So I just couldn't in faith ask people to help us out without any sort of compensation. The Kickstarter thing allows me to provide compensation. The trouble is that YouTube just provides no real economic ability to do much of anything. The ad revenue is kind of paltry. In fact, these past couple months we've been bringing in around $700 in ad revenue, and then PetterUp and I split that, so it's like $350 each from YouTube. So that's just not going to work as far as, I mean, like, even if we produced a smash hit success, like if we got out like a really huge thing, like if we all worked on it for free, and then at the end of it, like I had like 6 people on this team and we produced Equestria Primates and it got like 10 million hits, that would not be enough to pay people back. It would probably not produce enough money to justify the work that would go into it. So the Patreon thing has been what's really keeping us going. And this is also why you see a lot of people will hawk their merchandise and stuff like that, coffee cups, t-shirts, all that stuff, because that's where the money is at. The ad revenue from something like YouTube is just so totally worthless. That might also be why Bee and Puppycat asked for just a ton of money, and then maybe they didn't spend it. Maybe they just took in a whole ton of money and they just kept it, and they're like, there, you know, done. We made a living, and that's kind of where they went with it. But like I say, I don't know for sure, and I'm still trying to figure out what the budget would be. $20 per hour, like I said, sounds pretty reasonable. If everybody asked for $20 per hour, that would make a lot of sense, and I can certainly build a team around that kind of rate. But like I say, look into it. As for Banana Republic, PetterUp is still working on the first episode of Banana Republic. The first episode will be set in the gas station. I showed you guys once a clip from Banana Republic. PetterUp's working on some animation stuff. This first clip is actually just going to be sort of an introduction to the Banana Republic setting a little bit. Ray at her job. PetterUp is telling me, though, that he's putting an insane amount of detail into the gas station that Ray works at. So we're likely going to have a good number of videos set up in Ray's gas station, because PetterUp's putting so much detail into the background. It would be silly to be like, all right, good, we got a 1-minute video here with this really detailed background. Now let's go do another background. So we'll do the gas station a couple times. I've been thinking about stuff that I want to do with Banana Republic, and as long as we're doing the gas station thing, I was thinking about the Thor. You know how Thor's become a woman, and this was all over Tumblr for a little while, and somewhat on 4chan. It wasn't really that big of a deal because Thor hasn't been a very popular hero. but I sort of took an interest in it because it occurred to me just what a silly idea this was. Like, just kind of the idea of, like, Thor's just a woman now. And, because it's kind of like, imagine, like, look, I was talking to Kenza about this a little bit, and she, I started to say, like, well, like, Thor's a woman now, and she kind of gave me a look, and she's like, well, why can't he be a woman? And it's kind of one of those, like, oh, I don't know, dude. But it's like, why? I guess when you're dealing with fictional characters, why can't Thor be a woman? Why can't Ben Franklin be a woman? Why can't let's just do Robin Hood? But he's like, I don't know. This is a space alien. It's fictional. You could, I suppose. But the thing about comics, though, is that even when something can sort of be sensible, a lot of times it tends not to be. Because as Alan has put this, and this is actually probably a very accurate assessment, superhero comics are kind of a lot like pro wrestling, in the fact that pretty much they're soap operas for men. Like, if you read about all the stuff that they do, sure, there's like villains and they beat up these villains, but a lot of times it's like, like Clark Kent is obsessed with Lois Lane, and they just do these silly like relationship thing, will they, won't they crap, and then Superman always punches a villain at the end. It's kind of like soap operas for men in the fact that they have the same sort of soap opera twists, evil twins, clones, genders, just weird stuff that happens to them, weird social crap, and then they just keep the men involved because everything turns into a fight at the end. So, and then the superheroes are all wearing like super tight, skin tight suits, and so it's just soap operas for men. And so, when I first heard about Thor as a woman, I assumed that there was probably some kind of insane soap opera explanation for the whole thing. And actually, I was sorely disappointed. I looked into it, and it turns out that Thor as a woman, the entire premise behind it was that Thor bumps into Nick Fury, and then Nick Fury whispers something into his ear, and Thor drops his hammer and can no longer pick it up again because he has become unworthy. And I tried to ask around on the internet. I was like, can anyone explain to me, like, how does this work? What does the unworthy thing mean? Like, how can Thor just like drop his hammer because he heard something and then like he's unworthy? And I found out there's actually a bunch of debate around this. It's like, how does someone just lean into Thor and tell him something and then he can't be Thor anymore? So Thor apparently can't be Thor anymore because he can't lift his hammer. Someone said that Thor got another hammer, but this hammer works regardless of whether or not you're worthy to be Thor. And then Alan told me that he had like a great big god-slaying axe, and so apparently he uses this great big axe now instead of the hammer. He sort of dropped his traditional Thor role, according to what Alan said. I don't know, maybe he went through iterations of both, and now he's got like a hammer, and then he's also got the axe or something like that. But basically though, Thor just kind of drops the hammer, and a woman picks it up. It's like some blonde girl. I don't know if she's Asgardian or not. She probably is, because a lot of Thor's powers come from him being Asgardian. But I guess that if you have the hammer, you just become Thor. And it's someone like, this was one that they really had to explain to me, because I was like, how do you just become Thor? Like, Thor is just the guy's name, right? This is like if you had a magical sword and you just drop the magical sword and then someone else picks it up and they say like, I'm Greg now, or it's the weirdest when it's a woman who just like, if I had a magical sword and I just dropped the sword and then Kenza picked it up and oh, she's Greg now. From now on, we all have to call her Greg. And I just thought that was kind of comical. Or like Steve or something like that. Like Steve has his magical hammer and then Steve drops his hammer and some lady picks it up and now I'm Steve now. So I just thought that was really amusing. It's like you can't just become Thor. Thor is the guy's name. It's not like Iron Man or Captain America. It's just Thor. Like he doesn't have any other identity. But apparently though, I guess Thor is also a mantle. Or some people, they debated about this. People got into fights over it, whether or not Thor was a mantle or whether that Thor was just the. Because there was a little bit of this stuff. They were like, well, if you follow the Norse mythology, and then people were like, the comics don't follow Norse mythology. So they kind of got into that, and they're just like, I don't know. But what was even weirder is when I first started to look into it, I actually wound up looking into completely the wrong character. I looked up Thor as a woman, and I found Thor Girl. And it turns out that there is a character who was back in 2000 created. Thor Girl was made back in 2000. She's been around for 15 years now. Thor Girl, apparently. She was kind of like a sidekick to Thor. What it was is she had like the power cosmic or something like that. And the power cosmic is like overpowered crap. It's like the strongest power in the entire Marvel universe. And I guess she had the power cosmic, and she had a hammer like Thor. and it did like the same things that Thor's hammer did, and she was just Thor Girl. That was what she called herself, Thor Girl. She had another name, but her official mantle that she took on was just Thor Girl. So I was reading about Thor Girl at first, and then someone explained to me, like, they were like, no, Thor Girl is another character. Thor but a girl is also another. These are two separate people. So then I got to thinking about how there's like a Thor Girl, and then there's Thor but a girl, and then there's Thor but now with an axe or with a completely different hammer. And so this would be like really confusing. Like, I imagine the Asgardians trying to talk to each other about like what's going on in the upper echelons of Asgardian politics, and they're like, oh, you know, Thor did this to. You'd be like, do you mean Thor the woman, Thor Girl, or you know, like it's kind of like almost who's on first base if you think about it. Because you're like, Thor. No, I mean Thor but a girl. Oh, do you mean Thor Girl? No, just Thor but the girl, like just Thor. And so I guess what Man-Thor did was Man-Thor. He should probably just call himself Man-Thor now. Man-Thor. Man-Thor did is he just added an extra R to his name, so now he's Thor, like a pirate Thor. And so female Thor is just regular Thor with a single R. And then Thor Girl just continues to be Thor Girl. She got screwed. She was Thor Girl for 15 years, and then some other woman just comes along and is Thor now, you know? This is crap. That's crap. That's what that is. 15 years of loyalty, and this is what you get. So yeah, I was just thinking about all this bizarre, like, how difficult that would be to work with, and then I thought it might be funny. Banana Republic, it's based in the same universe that the Joker Mort comes from. So obviously there's like kind of like super type people in this universe, and I figured, you know, we may as well embrace that and just have them all be kind of like low level super, like not really able to fly or like punch dump trucks, but maybe they're like slightly more powerful than usual, or they have gadgets that other people don't have, or just a really ridiculous determination to be super. And you know, so a little bit like Mystery Men, probably closer is what you'd be thinking of. And so I thought that I would maybe just have an episode where Sir Lancelot and Sir Lancelot, a man and woman, man Sir Lancelot and woman Sir Lancelot walk into the gas station, and they try to buy beer, and then Ray tries to ask them for ID because they both look like they're in their 20s, and you have to be 21. You have to be 21 to buy beer. They look like they're in their 20s, but the rule is usually that the person has to look like they're 27. I think is what it was. Or that's what it was for cigarettes, at least, when I worked at CVS. So she was going to ask them for their IDs, and then both of them were going to get incredibly touchy about it for completely separate reasons. Sir Lancelot was going to get touchy about it because he's worried that he's lost his identity as Sir Lancelot. He's now Sir Lancelot with 2 R's on the Sir. And he's just can't handle this. He's really insecure about it. Everyone's gonna think I'm not the real Sir Lancelot anymore because I'm not. And then Lady Sir Lancelot's gonna be all touchy because everyone's been giving her crap because she's Sir Lancelot now. And so they were gonna have a big fight. And that's kind of what I've been thinking of for a second episode of Equestria Primates. Petterup was projecting that he would get this first episode done this week, but he told me he had some stuff come up. Just some personal life stuff, nothing too big, and so it's behind schedule. But that's common. I mean, everything's always behind schedule whenever you do this sort of stuff. It's like you can never get anything like I get that. You know, you just get that. You're just like, I have this projected schedule, and then it's like, oh, it's gonna be late. So that's just the way it is. The only way that doesn't happen is if you really just devote a lot of your schedule to things. I mean, like for example. The Mentally Advanced series is coming along really well. That's going to be out on time again this month. But the trouble with doing that though is that I stick to the Mentally Advanced series schedule really well, but I've been falling behind schedule on all my other projects. So yeah, that's the way it's just the way it goes. But anyway though, that's kind of some stuff that we're planning upcoming for Banana Republic, and yeah, like I said. But the Kickstarter thing is really the big announcement. That's the real big thing that I think is relevant. So, yes, I mean, if anybody has any comments or thoughts on that, I'm definitely open to it. Like I said, I'm kind of reaching out to people a little bit right now and looking into it, trying to figure out how exactly it's going to work. I know that we have some fairly educated people. We've got lawyers who watch us. We probably have accountants. We probably have people who have experience with work and the whole art thing. So if any of you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that, let me know. That would be valuable, and I'll continue to explore it. And when we have something more concrete going on, I will let you guys know what we plan to do with that. whether we plan to go forward with the Equestria Primate stuff or we go in some other direction. But otherwise, yeah, just keep an eye out for stuff. We'll have the Dark Lord Sarkatho. We will have Superhero Identity Crisis, and we're gonna have an introductory episode coming up soon. Hopefully this month, as far as I'm aware. And yes, that's what's going on with Equestria Primates and Banana Republic. Anything else going on with Equestria Primates? Yeah, like I say, we'll make a few changes to Equestria Primates to make it work if we do the Kickstarter thing. It's a little bit different when you're working like a small independent YouTube thing. One of the things that really kind of probably protects us from anything like a cease and desist. I mean, we're protected by parody, probably. Like, I try to do my best to stay within the realms of parody. And you can use a trademark if you're using it for parody. But I mean, it's like one of those things, like, you never really know. If Hasbro sent me a cease and desist, there's no way that I would want to tangle with them and be like, oh, how dare you, I will defend this up and down. It's one of those things, but they probably just don't mess with it because potentially if you assume that I'm covered by parody and you look at exactly how much money that we bring in from this sort of thing, it would cost them more money to take me to court than it would to like, they could just be like, oh, come to court, and I'd be like, okay, how much will it cost you? If it costs you more than like $500, then you're wasting your time. So that's kind of the thing. That's the silver lining in YouTube being so ineffective as a platform to make money. But with the big Kickstarter thing, this is why I'm more concerned about copyright stuff, and I want to just avoid trademark. Is because if we do a Kickstarter and it's like over $100,000, that's enough money that I think that I wouldn't even want to mess with it. Like, I wouldn't want to mess with the trademarks whatsoever. And again, I'm pretty sure that legally speaking, it should be fine. But just the safer, the better. And so that's kind of the idea behind the whole thing. But yes, I suppose that'll be it for today. So I will catch you guys later.